What is a company? What it stands for? Throughout the centuries, companies have evolved along with humankind. I will talk today about the evolution of the companies and people and try to understand where is the missing link that brought the companies to a place where this original purpose has been lost. And that's why we see some abnormalities today. First, let us go back to the roots of humankind, briefly. We as a species have evolved around fire. Fire gave us the possibility to create and tell our first stories and get united in tribes. As tribes, we have been organized around food. By 10,000 before Christ era, we started to domesticate the grains. So we could organize ourselves around food instead of having to go after it. By the Middle Ages, people started to get organized around farms. We had our first population boom at that time. We went up to 60 million people, combining the Eastern and the Western Roman empires together. So more food, more people, more needs. Around those farms, the large landowners started to create this labor market looking for better methods and profitability. By 17th century, London was already a large city, nurtured with a good system of roads in an internal and good and large market. First, after that, we had mercantilism, where merchants were going around the world looking for colonies, looking for goods to export, to trade, looking for profits. After mercantilism, we had this industrial revolution, where high profits started to merge. Large industry started to generate jobs, companies started to flourish, all kinds of business ventures. He started to attend what people needed. That's why we had the first growth of capitalism. Capitalism grew fast, very fast, provided an unprecedented rise in the life quality all around the world, but not without criticism. Where there's light, there's also shadow. In 1304, Giotto painted this fresco depicting Jesus sending away the moneylenders. He was very mad at them. In 1854, England was already a large economy. Charles Dickens published this novel called Hard Times at that time. It was fictioned in Coketown, a reference to Manchester. He was attacking the heartless capitalists. After this, we had this guy called John Ruskin. He published this book called Unto This Last. It was an attack both in consumerism and the production side of capitalism. He said that money not only should be made, but should be spent morally on the truly and beautiful things that humans need. Gandhi said he was very inspired by this book. He said it even changed his life. After Ruskin, we have the publication of Capital by Karl Marx, the most important critic on capitalism. Doing this jump on time, we go to Seattle in 1999. During the World Trade Organization Forum, thousands of protesters got together to call to an end to the inequalities of capitalism. 2013, this guy called Thomas Piketty published this book saying the high return on investment on the developed countries, it's higher than economic growth, so the wealth inequality will continue to rise. Recently, Apple, the largest corporation in the world, has been faced with some accusation of being indirectly responsible for the suffering of workers in its supply chain. Despite being amazingly productive, capitalism has two big flaws. First, it systematically inclines to ignore the suffering of workers unless regularly prodded not to. And two, the wealth of companies is often built up on satisfying what are not the essential needs of human beings. This is a conclusion of this video called Capitalism of the School of Life channel. It's a hamster wheel. People are going from one side to another to buy things they don't need with the money they don't have to impress people they don't like. So these people that we consider well succeeded are those taking antidepressives, looking for very expensive ways to create the illness they have created themselves, like going to remote places to reconnect themselves. These are the dark times of corporations. Like the church did during medieval times, corporations are trying all they can to maintain its power. So that's why we see so many scandals, bribery, all kinds of corruption that we see, because businessmen and businesswomen, they are at the service of capital without even knowing it. Sometimes, looking for a personal benefit, they act just like James Bond. They have the license to kill as long as they deliver good results to the shareholders. Back in 2004, I wrote this book about entrepreneurship in Brazil. So I interviewed 25 of the most important businessmen in the country. Businessmen only. There were no women. In the end of the interview, every one of them said, after I asked them, what is the thing that you regret the most? Every one of them said, like with few exceptions, that they regretted the most the fact that they didn't see their kids raising. So the definition of success are those people that are working a lot, create the same traps that we are in. We became slaves of capital. We're acting like puppets, trying to deliver better quarter results. Just like this writer, Jonathan Franzen, just said in his new book, Purity. He was so hypnotized by privilege and self-esteem, he didn't perceive he was just someone else's instrument. But this is on the edge of changing. We have to unplug the system we have created. People are not robots. They shouldn't be. They have fear, they have feelings, they have desires. The children get sick. There are new references spreading over the globe, people that I call the business humans. Human beings that are working to rescue the very spirit of a company, to attend the people and not the capital. Let me show you some examples. In 2000, a bank in Brazil called Banco Real started to rescue the mission of a bank, to develop the society. So Banco Real started to halt their financing lines of credit that were given to companies that were tearing down the Amazon illegally. Also, the bank started to do this social environmental crisis analysis before giving money to those companies, big companies in general. Because of that, a huge shift happened in the market, in the Brazilian financial system. All banks started to follow this example by Banco Real. Because of that as well, and because of other initiatives such as microcredit and pioneer lending for socially responsible investment funds, this guy, Fábio Barbosa, has been awarded with the Champions of the Earth Award, which is an award given by United Nations, the highest environmental award honor. He says that in order to succeed, you have to do the right things the right way. I've worked with him for 8 years in Banco Real. During that time, I'm a journalist. I never wanted to work in a bank. But I decided to go because of the people that were doing this great work there. And I could understand how powerful it is when the purpose is very clear and people are working for something more than money. So Banco Real, between 1998, when it was acquired by ABN AMRO, a Dutch bank, and between 1998 and 2008, when it was acquired again by Banco Santander, the financial capitalization of the bank went up 5.5 times. And the brand went from like the 7th most recognized in Brazil to the 1st one. So it's very powerful when you can align purpose and businesses. In 2000, this company called Natura, it's a cosmetic company in Brazil, created this product line called Ecos, made of shampoos, moisture creams, soap bars. Those products are made in conjunction with the tribes in the Amazon, with the communities living by the rivers. So instead of putting down the forests, those communities are generating income with the forest standing. It's a good way to create value. Natura and this company is led by a guy, the founder, who is called Guilherme Leal. Recently, Guilherme Leal and Natura launched this environmental profit and loss initiative to show that it's possible to measure the impact we cause in the environment while producing goods. Turned into a billionaire after Natura's IPO, Guilherme Leal bought a place in Bahia. When he moved there, he understood that he could try to develop the community around him instead of only enjoying paradise. So he started to foster local initiatives, and he also created this NGO to develop a new breed of politicians based on long-term thinking and also sustainability. He also created Ethos, an NGO in Brazil, to create a corporate governance framework for companies wanting to put sustainability into these daily lives. So Guilherme could be there enjoying his property by the sea in this paradisiacal place in Brazil called the Bahia, considered by Columbia University one of the most diverse in the world. But no, he's fighting hard the status quo to prove that it's possible to do business legally and in an inclusive way. He says, it's not about being a good guy, but there are many business opportunities aligned with the welfare of society. The same reason why companies were born. Another example, this guy here, Yvon Chouinard, created Patagonia, a company in Ventura, California. He started producing rock climbing equipments for him and his friends. And all of a sudden, people wanted to buy more and more of it. Even though he didn't want to become a businessman, he created this business which is a reference for the world right now on how to produce goods and minimize the impact on the environment. As a surfer, I like to say that Patagonia recently launched Ulex, a plant-based textile used to replace oil-based neoprene in the making of water sports wetsuits. He wrote this biography called Let My People Go Surfing, because he believes when the conditions are good for surfing or for any other outdoor activity, people should go there, enjoy nature. They can do their job afterwards. After all, people are not slaves of the capital. Dom Marcelo, a deceased leader from the indigenous communities of Queros, living in the heights of Apuao Sangate, a sacred mountain near Cusco in Peru, said that money should serve freedom, happiness, and easiness. How wise those words are. How do we relate with that in our daily life to the institutions that we work for? Some people say that economy is the purpose and the people are the means. But that if there were no people, there would be no economy. So people aren't there for the capital. Capital is there for the people. When she was aged 8 years old, the fathers of Ana Lúcia Vilela died in a plane crash. They were the shareholders of the largest bank in Brazil. So all of a sudden, she became a billionaire. Some years later, she found out that a huge piece of land in São Paulo was occupied by people living there, thousands of people. Instead of sending the people away and reclaiming the land, she started this NGO to create development opportunities for all these people. So she created a school, she created some courses, and one day, one of the students came to her and said, "To whom should I be angry with? Someone told me that if I went to school and learned how to read, someday I would become someone. But until today, I didn't know how to read, but until today, I don't know how to read a paper about economy or an article about economy on any given paper. So against who should I be angry with?" And she didn't know the answer, but she kept going her work to develop people, to give them the opportunity to develop their full potential. Recently, Alana, the NGO she created, started doing documentaries about advertising and consumerism for children. This year, Alana launched this movie called The Beginning of Life. It is a movie that tells the importance of raising kids between being born and 7 years old. This movie was screened by UNICEF to more than 200 countries in one day to raise awareness about the importance of education in the early stages of life. So Ana Lúcia, she develops her potential to create possibilities for human beings to develop their full potential. Clothing should be the next frontier. In Japan, Sophia Mine founded People Tree, the first company in the world to guarantee fair trade and environmental production practices. She created this first fair trade and organic cotton supply chain nearly 20 years ago. People Tree is also the first company to develop certified clothing in developing countries. Clothing industry is only second to oil industry in terms of pollution in the planet, as the True Cost documentary shows it. Every year, we produce 8 billion new pieces of clothing. This is 400 more than we just did 2 decades ago. To produce such amount of cheap pieces of clothing, People earn less than $1 a day in places like Pakistan and Bangladesh. Every cheap piece produced by fast fashion chains, like Zara, Forever 21, H&M, we know some of them, causes suffering and pollution. Sometimes those pieces are bought and not even used. How fair is that? Why do we have to have people being exploited and living difficult lives in order for us to wear fancy clothes that are made out of sweat and blood? We have to find back the love between companies and people, because we don't want to be known as the next slave masters, like buying things without thinking about it. We need more of those love narratives, like Fabio's, Guilherme's, Ana Lucia's, Safia, Yvonne's. These people are the human beings that are rescuing the mission, the missing link of the companies, the purpose why they exist. Now they create this space to connect, to make people be part of something greater than they are, because they bring this possibility of evolution and connection with our home planet, Earth. Why this is so difficult? Does it have to do with egotism? Forget Milton Friedman's motto, the business of business is business. This is outdated. This brought us to a place where the business itself is the thing to be worshipped. Wild capitalism is a manifestation of egotism. Our path is to go from egotism to altruism. Companies like Patagonia, Natura, Ben & Jerry's, Whole Foods, People Tree, they're showing this is possible. We can do this in a different way. Like, for example, the B Corps and the conscious capitalisms are proving that some companies that relate and think about the planet, that they can do good and bring good results as well. This is totally possible. To put another layer, there's a spiritual awakening happening in the planet right now. Companies have been going through this as well. It does not have to do with the religion in the workplace. It is just a need to reconcile with the human aspect of the businesses. It's not just economy, stupid. There's more on the table. Those real human beings, they are rescuing the missing link, the mission why companies were born, to connect us to good opportunities to develop themselves. This is the opportunity we have to be aware about the movement those business humans are creating. They are bringing to the table an opportunity for us to evolve, to excel, while we think about how we invest our time, money, and energy in this planet. Is it to make money only? Or is it to have a good and meaningful ride looking for happiness and liberation? Thank you.